Welcome to Steel Spotlight Television and William Steele, True Crime, with my guest host, Ignacio Esteban, retired
Well,
ATF agent. Ignacio,
hey man, what's going on? Another great show. Interesting topic, very timely. Our shows are very timely, very informative. You get a lot of good info watching us and what we talk about.
that's
And
right.
very interesting meeting summit between Xi Jinping and our president Joe Biden. Spoke for hours yesterday. I have a lot of reservations about that because this is definitely our number one enemy right now, our biggest challenge, our biggest competitor. Even they say competitor, I would say possible enemy, clear and present danger,
That's right.
biggest threat. How about that? I would say biggest threat to our national security. Uh, based on them matching us dollar for dollar, they want their defense to be bigger than ours. We have to continue to outspend them, almost like a playbook we did with the Soviets, how to bankrupt them. The reason why Xi Jinping, what I was reading, came to the table and came all the way from China to San Francisco because their economy is in trouble. Their COVID strategies was a bust, was a failure, and they're having big time problems because we're kind of giving the cold shoulder also. So he needs, because we're big trade partners, he wants to re-engage with that stuff also. He may
It's
back down a little bit with Taiwan, which they have
mhm.
to. They can't be threatening Taiwan and back off on the U.S. and our naval carriers in international waters. We have the right to go to Taiwan in the straits there. They're an ally of ours. We have the right to go anywhere in international waters, but yet they challenge us. They challenge us in the air, they challenge us in the sea, and then they have the audacity to have these air balloons over our country. We have to shoot down, spying on our military bases.
Yeah.
They're two-faced. He's a dictator. He's a one-party, the oppressor of people. If people don't know what kind of things Xi Jinping has done to his people, it is awful. If you're an ethnic Muslim in Northwest China, it's genocide. You're going to prison camps, pretty much. They're sterilizing women. They're raping the women. They're pretty much executing people that they think are a problem. If you're Tibetan, they're trying to take over that region. They don't like the Tibetan culture. They pretty much want the Hmong culture to be the only culture for China. If you're not Hmong, guess what? They're going to eliminate you. And if you want to challenge CCP, you're not a communist. Let's say you're a free-loving person. Well, look what happened in Hong Kong. Look at other parts of China. They pretty much put you in jail and incarcerate you. And what bit him in the ass a little bit was what happened with the COVID and the masses started protesting. We talked about in previous shows. They started saying she must go. They were tired of being held against their will for hours at a time. It was a failed policy they had there. And look, their economy suffered enormously. And now he comes with an open hand, hoping for the U.S. to reengage in huge trade. That's what he also addressed this economic summit. He wants our money. He wants to oppress the people, but he wants our money.
Meanwhile, he flew spy balloons over the United States that were directional. They circled around bases, kept
Yeah,
going, and our tough guy president, the loser that he is,
yeah,
shoots them down after they completed their mission,
yeah.
transmitted their data to satellites back to China. He shoots them down over the Atlantic, and from my understanding, they can't. They're so deep they can't even retrieve these things, or most of them. All the
Yeah.
ones that they shot down, in the north. But so this guy here, it's ironic that he's in San Francisco now. Mary Bass, my fiance, she's a forensic accountant and data scientist. She was compelled to get involved with the situation to assist with the San Francisco mayoral candidates race. And I'll let her explain that because she's our guest today.
Yes.
And she has a firsthand knowledge of the infiltration of the CCP into the United States and specifically in San Francisco with some compelling story here.
Oh, let's hear
And
it.
so we're saying that that you're here as an expert on these matters. You wrote some books on the Communist Party and these dictators,
Yes.
and so we are not saying this is the opinion of YouTube or even our opinion. These are Mary's experiences, the
Hmm.
opinion of our guest, and her personal experiences that she lived. And I've seen tons of evidence that she can't even put on the show, proving what she's saying. And we've sent some of it to you to look over, but um, yeah, there's a big presence there, and I know they even rolled up some police stations that were set up that were actually Communist Party police stations to police their own citizens within the United States. And I think
I
one
heard
of
that.
them was rolled up
Yeah.
in San Francisco, in New York City, and other
New York
cities.
City is very big, and also in DC, big Chinatown here in DC, also the capital,
Right.
very
So
close.
for my audience right now, the head of China was Xi Jinping is meeting with our
President
morally bankrupt, corrupt Biden, who can't string a sentence together.
can't
He's
talk.
meeting with him right now today in San Francisco. So this is a very,
What,
very
what, what,
timely
what could he
show.
have spoke 4 hours? What would he saying a 4 hour conversation? I would love to have been a fly on the wall on that one.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable stuff right there.
So we're going to bring on Mary, Dr. Mary Bass, again, forensic accountant, data scientist. She's an expert at nonprofits and investigating frauds and corruption and abuses with assisted living facilities. As we know, there's going to be more about that in the coming months, and the guardianship programs. And this is actually International Fraud Week. So we're going to be doing shows about that because she's a member in good standing of the ACFE, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and StopProbateFraud.com. So let me introduce Dr. Mary Bass.
Hi, Ignacio.
Hi, Mary.
Thank you very much for having me today to help with this story. I appreciate it.
I look forward to hearing it. It should be a real interesting story, especially I'm very interested in the CCP, and it's so relevant right now with, you heard our conversation with Xi Jinping in San Francisco, being our president, and the lies and two-faces he's saying. Well, we all know in China he oppresses his people, and they want the same thing. They want the intelligence to control and keep on spreading the one-party communist dictatorship around the world. My family went through it in Cuba with the communists, right? And what they did to that, destroyed a beautiful island, a beautiful country that was equivalent. And I saw, and that's my reason why my family's here. And it's done all over the world. We've seen in Venezuela, a lot of Venezuelans have suffered much with Nicolas Maduro. Hopefully, if he had some, he's been indicted in the Trump administration, they would bring him. So I look forward to hearing your personal story, what happened in San Francisco and with the CCP.
Yep, well, you got the floor. And I've heard this story a few times and seen the details, seen the facts. So how did this start? How did you come to be, see what's going on with the CCP in California, specifically in San Francisco?
Okay. My ordeal began in August of 2019, and it was not a campaign I had, been considering getting involved in. I was living in Fresno at the time. I have previously lived in San Francisco for many years, so I'm very familiar with the area, but with my interest being primarily on local politics, not so much national, I was more interested in what was happening with the Fresno mayoral race because that was really intense. So I wasn't seeking volunteer opportunities outside of the area or trying to get in the mix of anything. However, unfortunately, a man named Tony Millay, who was a former Rockland County Republican congressional candidate from New York, who has a security business, had told me that if I volunteer for the San Francisco mayoral campaign to help conservative Republican candidate Ellen Lee Zhao, that he would ensure that my mother and I were kept safe. Now, this is a big deal for us because he had knowledge and awareness about the very unfortunate and suspicious circumstances surrounding my stepfather's death, which we believe to be a homicide. And Tony Millay has a lot of professional connections to people who are involved with the military as well as law enforcement. And, he definitely probably, could have at least got me a meeting with authorities to help me.
Sure.
Something, anything.
So
or even tell me, call this 800 number, Mary. That's how you do it.
Now, we just had a couple of images in quick succession that are Tony Millay. Now, this one needs a little explanation within.
This was, this picture was actually taken during the same time as my volunteerism in the San Francisco mayoral campaign. Tony Millay had gone to the Philippines to purportedly present an award to their law enforcement there. I'd spoken with him prior because I'd been to the Philippines before, and he was very squeamish about like Abu Sayyaf and things like that. I said, if you're not going anywhere too remote, probably you'll be okay. And you're this big, arms dealer, tough guy, and you're an American and you're a veteran. And it's U.S. territory.
A lot of interesting stuff there, right?
If I can be okay when I travel, so can other people. But yes, so he had sort of kind of forced my hand to get involved with this campaign under the pretext of, I'll make sure you and your mom are safe. I'll, get you the help you need from law enforcement. Because in Fresno, California, local law enforcement has proven themselves to seemingly be very compromised, and therefore federal law enforcement help would be needed to intervene in those matters.
No, I actually looked into that. At the time her and I met, I was getting out of prison, and I went out there to help her move and, to take care of a few loose ends out in Fresno. And I looked into all this and I verified a lot of what she's saying. I've seen a lot of the videos of people going to her house with guns on surveillance cameras and not identified. I've seen the video where they tried to abduct her, literally. I've seen personally the difficulty. Maybe it was COVID, maybe it's her, maybe it's because you have to go through this hotline. It was almost impossible to get the attention of anybody to help her in a law enforcement capacity. You couldn't even get in the police department. This is what, a year and a half ago we were there. And I looked into Fresno and the things she was saying about the corruption. It comes up in a lot of Google searches as being the most corrupt county in the United States. So now this gives you the idea where she's coming out of and how badly she needed help to investigate the suspected murder of her stepfather.
Wow.
And I had, trying for years and trying to protect my mom and I in our house. And it's California. So, and I grew up around a lot of criminal defense attorneys, and I've seen things go bad for people even when they're defending their own home.
Sure.
So the laws are kind of precarious out there as far as what you can and can't do. And, armed with only a can of bear spray,
that's not going to do much.
I'm not really going to do it. Right.
No.
Right. So I get drug into volunteering for this mayoral race. Now, having lived in San Francisco a long time, I'm aware that there's a lot of insanity there.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, during the time I lived there, I was not a victim of any sort of crime, not even a property crime. And I did live in the Outer Sunset District, which is a pretty nice area. But I worked all over, so I'm pretty familiar with the streets. However, I had not previously encountered people with such, shall we say, in my opinion, extremist values and agendas, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we have Ellen Lee Zhao. She is a social worker who works for the city of San Francisco. And this was her second campaign for mayor. She was running against the current mayor, whose name is London Breed, who is a Democrat.
Okay.
And Ellen really pumps herself up. And if anyone meets her, the first thing she'll say is, I'm the Chinese Donald Trump. Don't you know who I am? Yeah. And in this photo, The Rise of the Chinese American Right, you can see Ellen. And then we have a gentleman in the back wearing a white shirt, clapping. Now, his name is Paul Taylor. Paul Taylor, in my personal opinion, an unserious candidate for office, has previously run for office unsuccessfully. He is in the same region as Eric Swalwell. So the reason Eric Swalwell is in office is because on the Republican side,
Okay.
you have an unserious candidate running. So
no competition.
Right.
Right.
So here's a picture of Ellen at a gun show at a place called Cow Palace, which is a very silly name for what is actually a very big venue and arena.
It's an arena, right?
Yes, it's big.
It's interesting, and I know she represents herself to be a Republican, but the colors for the Chinese Communist Party are also
red. Yeah.
There seems to be just a little too much red, and we're going to get to that in a minute.
So let me see here. Sorry, there's kind of a lot of images. Well, so let me see. Get my dates. Yep. So this Paul Taylor is backing this campaign. He's serving as Ellen's campaign advisor.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was, for whatever reason, seemingly the only person she would listen to. Tony Millay put me in touch with a recruiter, a young lady with the campaign, who was excited to have someone come aboard. And the first thing she tells me is, well, do you have an app called WeChat on your phone? I said, no, I don't. I'm also not into social media. So what is WeChat? And she said, oh, it's encrypted. It's made in China. So we know it's very good. And I said, okay.
A lot of red flags there. Literally, a lot of red flags that one. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I tell people all the time, be very careful. None of these apps are end-to-end encrypted. And, including WhatsApp, which a lot of people
sounds like spyware. Sounds like good spyware by the CCP there.
My dad was a cryptographer in the Army, and I know a lot about coding and have the right brain for all of that. And I know what's safe and what's not. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll play this game. I'll get the damn app. So WeChat gets on the phone. There's a lot of people in this group. Everything in the text messages of this chat group is in Cantonese. However, there is a built-in feature that translates everything to English, thankfully, because I didn't want to sit there and put everything through, Google Translate on this. And no one would talk on the phone. Very auspicious people. The whole ordeal was very strange. So here's like some proof I was on the scene. I don't know if you can spot me or not, but I am behind candidate Ellen Lee Zhao.
Mary, it looks like she's the 1, 2, 3, fourth person from the right, starting on the right. She's in front of the gentleman with the red hat.
Oh, wow. That's you there.
That's Mary, standing right behind the mayoral candidate.
I didn't recognize you without the glasses there, huh?
Yeah, see disguise. Oh, there you go. Yes, CCP taught me that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So my volunteerism stretched from August until mid-October, when I just could not take it anymore. It became too stressful for me. I'm only one person. At the time, an unarmed person dealing with people with very radical ideas who are very much locked and loaded, which, perhaps is their right, but nonetheless is somewhat disconcerting given their plans, ideas, ideals, their mindset, and them being very irrational in their dealings with me.
Sure.
So this is Saturday, October 19th, 2019. There I am. That's how I'm normally dressed. That is my Buick LeSabre, which is a very great car, I will tell you. They wanted to have a car parade. So I thought, okay, because, growing up, my dad, was involved in helping out with some different local campaigns and things. And I have lived in the Bay Area so long, I know a lot of people that have, what they call import cars, and they do these car shows. A lot of people are Asian that do the car shows. So I had told the candidate, Ellen Lee Zhao, I said, I could get you a really big crowd of people with very, very cool, cars. Decked out import cars. And this could be like a really big thing. No, I don't want that. That's too many cars. No, you want a car show, well, a parade, right? Oh, evidently, no. They want to keep it on the smaller side, which to me at the time, this all happens in one day, right? So it's not quite clicking. Because I don't have the same train of thought as they do.
Right. It sounds like she was trying to exclude outsiders because they had an agenda in what this parade was all about.
And then she made me change into what they call the uniform. She said, we wear
uniform.
uniforms.
There you go.
So I'm just kind of rolling with it.
What does the shirt say, Mary?
Oh, I can't see from here. See, I'll have new glasses soon, everybody. So, but I don't know. I like this look better.
I don't want to get new glasses. She might file for divorce.
That's a very professional look. That's good.
That's how I roll. That's that's the standard forensic accounting look there. A
safe,
safe car. There we go. So I'm in the uniform all of a sudden. And it's a little bit crazy how these people were bamboozling me. Now, as all this is going on, there comes a contradiction, which I find out about. So you've got Ellen, who is at the gun shows. You've got Tony Millay, who is an FFL licensee, allegedly. Okay. And they're having me prepare all this stuff for my visit to volunteer. I volunteered 2 weekends on this. as far as in-person volunteering. So they're having me make lists of different gun stores around the area because, as I'm sure you know, there are no gun stores in San Francisco. No guns and ammo. So you have to go to surrounding towns. So you would be going to prospective voters asking for their vote, even though they're nowhere near the voting district. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They weren't looking for monetary donations at all. So that was my first thing. I thought, are you wanting to approach all of these owners of these various firearms supply stores and ranges to ask for money? No, we don't want any money. Okay.
So
how can they vote for you if they're outside of the district?
So she's officially on the surface nothing more than a county social worker. How is she affording to finance her campaign?
Oh boy, this is fun. Well, and this gets into taxes, but it'll be quick, I promise. So the group that nominated Ellen for mayor, because I looked into everything, is, I don't know why people do this, but as long as they keep doing it, I can keep busting out scams and things. They're called the Coalition of Good Neighborhoods. So I thought, who's this coalition? And I look it up. They're a nonprofit out of San Francisco, Chinese and Chinese American people. And what it really breaks down to, which I learned throughout my time with these folks, I learned a lot in a short amount of time. And I learned I needed to get out of this mess. The Coalition for Good Neighborhoods is a nonprofit, one of several established by this group. Now, this nonprofit also has a separate component to it, which seems very much to me like a paid protection racket. So you have, and I'll demonstrate this with some evidence here in a second. You have these people staging these crimes against their own people, against the Chinese people of San Francisco, not just Chinatown, but all over San Francisco, inciting fear that they need this protection. But don't go to the police, because the San Francisco police, they don't care about you. They only care about the perpetrators. It's the message they keep perpetuating.
Sure.
So they have their own, in my opinion, militaristic type of quasi-police establishment in place. So it's, pay us to protect you. We're going to scare the hell out of you first, and now you pay us, but we'll keep you safe. And that is organized in part through Ellen Lee Zhao and her associates, and seemingly in part through the Lee Family Tong, an organized crime syndicate out of San Francisco's Chinatown, which I was drug into and visited personally. Let's see. So
I would think they wouldn't be too happy to see.
They were. It was
an Italian girl in their
It
their
was
club.
really interesting because the men in the Tong, they were as surprised to see me as I was to see them. Because once I got inside of the place, it's a 3-story building. The area is mixed residential commercial use. It looks pretty innocuous from the outside. Ellen Lee Zhao got me there under the false pretenses, saying, it's the Lee family. Someone had a car accident. They can't get their car out of the street. They don't know what to do about the insurance. They're very much panicked. We have to help them. So I thought, oh no, someone had a car accident. Sure, I'll help. This was right after church. I went to their church, right?
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I was duped under false pretenses. Heaven forbid someone would be straightforward with me. And so all of a sudden, I go in. It's kind of a weird, narrow entranceway to this place, up 2 flights of stairs, and boom, I'm there. And I look around, and I try not to look shaken up or anything. And they're older men. Probably the youngest man there might have been about 45, but most of these folks were in their 60s. They're playing cards. They're shooting pool. One guy's reading the Chinese daily newspaper, kind of moves it down, looks up at me. And I know they want to ask, what the hell are you doing here in our Tong, Mary Beth? And I am wondering that myself. I am wondering, what the hell am I doing in the Tong? How do I know it's the Tong? Because my father, rest his soul, was Italian, and so people he knew were involved in this and that. So
Sure.
if you replaced and took out all of those Chinese men in the Tong and you put a bunch of older Italian men in there, I would think I walked into this place in Fresno called the L'Amico Club, which is where all of the connected or want to be connected Italian people hang out. That's their
Used to hang
hangout.
out. Yeah. So,
So I thought, I'm in the Tong. No one's going to translate for me. I know that this is like totally against the cultural protocol.
did you ask where's the accident?
There was no accident.
I will say this, as a woman and who's not Chinese and not part of their clique, it's kind of a miracle you made it back out of there.
That's really something.
But I would also say with her look, with the right eye makeup, they might have given them reason for pause. Maybe for a second she passed, but I think not.
I think that they were more curious because that day I don't have a photo. I wish I did. I was wearing an all black suit.
Oh yeah,
and I had on my great grandfather's lapel pin, which is from the Shriners.
Just what
because he was a Freemason and a Shriner, and it's the Shriners emblem. For people that don't know, it has a scimitar, which is a curved blade knife. For people that don't know what a scimitar is,
Yeah.
And so I think they're looking at like, who is this person in all black with these big glasses that doesn't look quite American stereotypical?
Yeah.
With the scimitar, is she some sort of? Is she from another Tong, maybe? Somebody's kid from the Tong?
Just what they would want to see is Mary coming in there with a camera taking some tourist photos.
Yeah. So you come in and say, okay, where's the accident?
No. I came in and I sat down. They motioned for me to sit down, and I thought, okay, hey, it's their place. I'm not trying to rock the boat. I'm just hoping to get out of this unscathed.
Yeah. Exit stage right as soon as you can. Yeah.
There you
And,
go.
it's bad because I have no one that's going to translate for me. Ellen, there was a nice fellow involved with the campaign who was not in on the crazy stuff. She made him stay outside. And he also speaks Mandarin, not Cantonese. So he may not have been able to have translated. But I'm sure he would have known, oh my gosh, we're all in Tong. Mary, I don't want to be here. You don't need to be here. Let's go. Someone that would have lent a helping hand. Now, these people at the Tong, and this is just from the intonations of the conversation, they seem mad at Ellen about something that was in the newspaper because they kept pointing at it and they had a very gruff sounding voice with her. And then she starts explaining, heaven only knows what.
Probably said
in
Mary did it.
And starts pointing at me.
Yeah. It's all her fault.
And I'm just sitting there. We had a younger fellow with us who does speak English. He could have translated. He chose not to. And I thought, great. They're blaming something on me, but I know that in this setting, not to overstep and to speak up, because that's just going to lead to more problems. If these guys happen to not know any English because they're quite a bit older, things get lost in the translation, or Ellen, who's a real screamer, maybe she'll tell them I just threatened them or something. So I just thought, I'm going to shut up and sit here and I'm going to wait this out. I'm going to wait it out. That's all I'm going to do. So that's what I had to do for that. Now, there were some very, additional peculiarities with this whole ordeal. During the car parade, which was a nightmare, my car is involved now.
Yeah.
They taped those signs to the Buick and the adhesive never came off, and my mom will never forgive these people for that. So we do this car parade, and it's, to me, seemingly kind of strange. There was a nice fellow. He and his wife hosted me for the weekend, so he knew the route they were going to drive. So I said, okay, well, you drive my car, and I'll just be the passenger, and I'll take some photos or something. And so she has, the candidate has the lead car, which is a pickup truck, and she has these speakers blaring. It'll either be the Star Spangled Banner, or instead of like a catchy jingle or something for a mayoral campaign, it's just this over and over again. Vote Ellen, vote Ellen, Ellen Leja for mayor, vote Ellen. And it goes on for hours. And I'm pretty polite, but I told the fellow I was with, I said, this sort of seems like cult brainwashing.
That's exactly, yeah.
I don't mean to speak out of turn.
Yeah.
So she's running on this whole pro Second Amendment campaign. Okay. That's fine and good. I don't see anything wrong with that. She admits she didn't become a Republican until about halfway when Donald Trump was through his first presidential term.
Gotcha.
So,
and she's from China, right? She was born in China?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so then I start trying to, I'm getting the feeling things are really bad with this campaign. I look online on, this is from a website called calguns.net. And it's a message board where gun enthusiasts, there's FFL licensees, everybody's on this site that's interested in guns in California. So here we have her at these prevent gun violence rallies. So Ellen Lee Zhao is outed on the CalGuns forum by a former campaign volunteer who I'll only refer to her by her username is Chibi Pa. So I thought, quite the contradiction. You're running this pro 2A campaign,
Right.
and very recently you've been for gun reform, against gun violence, all of this. So I thought, I have got to track down this Chibi Pa, and this is not going to be easy. These folks are Chinese. These folks are experts at being very shrouded and secretive, and things are in code. And just, eventually I did find her, and she was very kind to me and helpful to me with a lot of information to help put things in perspective. And she is Chinese American. She was also able to confirm my fears, shall we say, about Ellen's involvement with the CCP. So it is certain. That part is not speculative.
Wow.
Now, the current mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, is a woman of color. And Ellen and her volunteers, myself excluded, because I am not planning this, had been planning for 10 months, which they admitted to me, 10 months, to create all of this racial havoc and chaos and to film it all.
Wow.
So, as an example, here is one staged hate crime. This was on the SF Muni, which is an underground and above ground train.
Now, for my audience, we're talking about San Francisco, and the premier of China is there right now. We're talking about the CCP and various political dirty tricks that our guest, fiance Mary Bass, are discussing, that she has firsthand knowledge of, as being in the middle of these groups and trying to extract herself from it for quite a while.
See, so they use this girl to pretend she got hurt. This man is minding his own business, waiting to get off the platform.
Off the train.
Pardon, off the train onto the platform.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a while. Oh, well, here comes the SF Muni police.
So does she claim that he actually hits her or something?
We'll get to that.
He gets arrested for that. Yeah.
Let's get some more people involved here.
Wow. A lot of pictures. I wonder who took these pictures. They did, huh?
They did, yes, because they put them all in the chat.
Nice.
And you could tell the pictures are so perfect, the whole thing is staged, because normally if a witness is there, the pictures are shaky or sideways, or they're afraid to put the camera up to somebody because they're intimidated.
Yeah.
The images are going to be different than these perfectly framed up shots,
Now we have him in custody.
Poor guy got set up.
Yeah.
Whatever became of him?
I don't know.
Can we find out?
I had wanted to, but how could I,
Yeah.
And
if you know the date of this, we get police report. Maybe we could do something to help get him exonerated if he ended up with a conviction.
I've got the date. I always have the
if
date.
he has a conviction he doesn't deserve, and we can do something to help.
For sure. That's doing the right thing there. That's something positive.
And then this is what WeChat looks like for people that don't know. And this is in reference to that incident. You can see they're writing me something in Cantonese and how that translates out.
Did you see the translation? But no one died, and the Negro did not need prison. I mean, you have to see these chats, the translated chats. They talk about sniper guns. They talk about.
We'll get there in a minute.
There's a reference to 9/11. It could kind of go either way. And then when I looked up the language next to it, it said Tuesday, which I looked up when 9/11 happened in New York City. It happened on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But then in subsequent photos, there seems to be other references to like 9/32, 9 this. But then there's a series of text. I put it into AI, and I guess the FBI or somebody translated this a while ago. I don't know what they're doing, what they did with it. But it seems to be real vague conversation about a guy visiting a location, commentary on a few spots, and then talking about a stock market drop of 4% today. Well, that was written on a Saturday. I think the stock market's closed on Saturday.
Mm.
So that's, in my opinion, probably in Mary's as well, and not YouTube, not yours necessarily, some sort of code that they're using with each other on this supposedly encrypted chat.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Ellen, in her hate campaign and wanting to stir things up,
Mm.
with the help of Paul Taylor, who on camera later admits to the news that this was his brainchild,
Oh,
starts having a series of very racist and derogatory billboards published depicting current mayor London Breed as a madam or a pimp, shall we say. You see her there, the drawing of her with her feet up on the desk, counting money, a man running away with a little girl, slavery and human trafficking and SF. That's a pretty big allegation.
So now this is a political billboard in San Francisco where the current mayor, the current mayor is depicted as a madam. So this is newsworthy for educational purposes to let you know what's going on in San Francisco.
And that was all over San Francisco. She posted all over that billboard.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was one in a series of these cartoon billboards. So then you have another one here that they had installed. She wants to portray herself as a superhero of sorts.
And she's getting beaten up by Hispanic and black males. She's being victimized. That's her whole thing. Vote for me because, we're being victimized by everybody else.
Yep.
What's the significance of the center one?
That is a homeless person on the ground. Looks like with a bunch of needles staged around them. The significance of the third photo. Let's talk about.
She's going to clean up the homeless situation. That's what she's implying.
Yes, part of her proposals include having homeowners take them in and supplying federal grant money to homeowners to let or rent out part of their house.
Don't live in San Francisco.
That's a whole new type of inmate to roommate. That's homeless to homeowner.
Yeah. where the homeless takes over the homeowner's property.
They will. I've seen it happen in San Francisco. It happened to a very good friend of mine who had a very expensive house. The tenant ran them out of there. And she and her husband had to, this is the law, you have to keep paying for all of the utilities for the house while you have a dispute with the tenant who's in there. So this woman who is also a Democrat, who I've actually seen with my own eyes, stuffing ballots. She had bags and bags and bags of ballots.
My goodness, seriously.
There's a lot of drama there. She stayed there rent-free for about a year and a half and then cleaned up with a $60,000 settlement from their homeowner's insurance. So watch out, because some of these squatters they're smart. They know how to work.
That's dangerous. That's why, who wants to live in San Fran like that? That's horrible.
Well, I have a good idea. I come from a reality TV business here with inmate to roommate. I think Mark and Shauna could take a few of the homeless in from California.
That would be something. Geez, so I'm dragging to the Tong after church because that's how I spend a Sunday afternoon. Fun stuff. And, this is all thanks to you, Tony Millay. So I'll give you a shout out.
How did you get out of there, Mary?
Somehow, I don't know if they were more curious to keep an eye on me when I left or what. No, I saw they had guns on them. No one pulled a gun or anything. I think that the members of the Tong are much smarter than Ellen Lee Zhao, and they had enough sense to know this girl doesn't want to be here. She didn't come in here of her own volition. She's stupid to be involved with this, but she's not that stupid that she'd want to cross us. Well, let's just let her go and see what happens. Tell Ellen, keep an eye on her and don't do this again.
What do you think her real motive was to get you in there?
Use me as some sort of a distraction or scapegoat me for her getting things in the press that people seem very upset about.
And in my opinion, from the stuff that I've seen that we're not going to talk about, it may have been to recruit her to do things and kind of hang them on her, maybe.
Oh yeah, I got her show the pictures now. This is after the car show.
Let me back up real quick to Tony Millay. So this guy here, and again, we're expressing our opinions here. He is over in the Philippines. I think this was, you said, something to do with ending child trafficking, right? something like that, or
Well, he had put online that he was over there getting rapists locked up.
okay. So we have to be careful. YouTube doesn't let certain things go out there. So he's never been convicted of any crime with messing around with underage humans. However, this guy has been in trouble for threatening a political opponent by threatening to forcefully do things to a male opponent, and it's the S word, which I don't think YouTube would allow in, but not a good thing.
We understand what he's implying. Yeah,
right.
sure.
So we're going to have the article about that in the description and all that.
Yep, he threatened the S word against his political opponent at the time, whose name is Frank Spiracco Jr., who's also a Republican.
I will say this: there's way more to this guy than meets the eye. There's way more that we're not going to put up at the moment, and so I just want to let you know that if I was in the picture in those days, I don't care who you are, I'm going to defend my family. And I honestly, I'm not making threats on YouTube, but the old bill would have been up in this guy's face a long time ago.
Yeah.
So
when now we're here to educate and to inform people, and people make their own decisions. What's going on here.
So
it's an interesting story that Mary has been through a couple years ago,
and I'm just like you in protecting your family, Ignacio. I suggest people leave my fiance alone. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
And back to the election madness. Now, I don't know how many other areas do this, but San Francisco has what they call ranked choice voting, which the members of this campaign didn't like. And there was a lot of drama on the WeChat. And they're asking me, how do we fill out these ballots? Well, I'm telling them the truth. This is how you fill it out. Your choices from your most favorite to the least. But you have to fill out every bracket or it's invalid. No, that's how Ellen lost last time, because it's fixed with the ranked choice voting. Well, I don't make these decisions. I'm a forensic accountant. My power only reaches so far. Right. But so they wanted to just vote Ellen only on the ballots. I said, that's not really how this works. It's quite literally a popularity contest here, people. And so there was a lot going back and forth. Now, I go to the car parade was a huge deal, because that night in the WeChat, these messages start coming in, which at the time that I'm getting these messages, I'm at the host family's home. They have an extra bedroom they're letting me stay in for the night, and I'm planning to leave the next morning on Monday. And I don't know what to compare this to, but for me, seeing these messages was so shocking. It was just like my stomach dropped, my blood went cold, and I thought, oh my God, this is, to me, looking very bad. What have I gotten into? How do I stop this? I'm only one person. I'm going against a lot of people that are dangerous.
So these are images she's going to show up along the parade route where prominent locations in San Francisco are circled in red in the midst of very troubling back and forth, supposedly encrypted conversation.
Okay.
Between Chinese nationals.
I'll explain the different venues here.
Yeah.
And to me, this seemed very much like people doing dry runs and surveillance on target sites.
Okay.
There's one picture she has here where they actually block traffic to monitor the response time for police presence, and another one where they had surveilled and followed around the mall security.
So this is Cow Palace, which is circled in red. This is where Ellen was shown at the gun show. This is a very large structure. It is
very big.
Indoor arena for people that aren't familiar with it. It seems like a very big place to do something bad at. So we got Cow Palace. Then there were some other photos. I wasn't quite sure the significance of what they wanted to do on Wallace Street, but again, they're not going to tell me everything, right?
No.
So
what is that? The transit lines?
This is I'll show you in a second. This is mall security. They would clock in the response time because they sort of pulled up, which in California the term is called stunting. So they were stunting at Stonestown Mall, which is kind of like you pull up fast, You swing the back end of your car and you brake really hard and put it in park and you just stay. Their timing, how long it took for the security there to respond. Stonestown Galleria is a very big mall. I worked there 100 years ago at the Macy's. One of my first jobs. So it's a pretty big place. And also part of their planning, which terrifies me to no end, includes the last photo on here, which is called the SF Muni Cameron Beach line. So for people that aren't familiar with the Bay Area, you have the SF Muni and the Metro, which are above ground and underground high-speed rail. There's an example of one going above ground. It makes me very concerned when I see areas like this being circled in red, people seemingly with a very bad agenda, and who are, they're gearing up for something bigger than what I understand, but clearly it's nothing good.
Now, keeping in mind, Mary got involved with this with the best of intentions, thinking that she was going to get some support from this politician who would get law enforcement involved to help her get the murder of her stepfather investigated. Now, again, for the viewers, Mary is a forensic accountant, fraud examiner. She's worked closely with big corporations exposing corruption, financial crimes. She's worked closely, with various law enforcement agencies to that end. But when it came time for her to get some help, she couldn't get it. And there's reasons for that, obviously corruption and all that. So the proper people were made aware of this and nothing was ever done about it.
But where's Ellen now?
Still banging the drum. She was, when Trump, I don't have the exact date on this, but I'm sure a lot of people remember. It was after Trump got better from COVID and he had his peaceful protest on the White House lawn. She was there in DC on the White House lawn. Oddly enough, somehow Ellen bamboozled Candace Owens to pay for this trip.
Really?
Ellen and her supporters, which I thought seemed really peculiar given Ellen's blatant racism against people of color.
Blacks, right?
Campaign
like they're very racist in the way they're saying things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, people are very racist until it's convenient for them to be nice to somebody of a different race when they need something from them.
When exactly, when it helps them out.
So what we're going to do, Mary, if you have any closing thoughts, we're going to wrap this up. Ignacio's written some books on some of these topics.
Yeah,
so we're going to put them on the screen. The links will all be in the descriptions. Check us out, and we're going to follow up with Mary and do stuff about Fraud Awareness Week. She's big on that. And do you want to say anything else about the communists and stuff going on? Because right now, tongue in cheek, you say, "Where's Ellen now?" And I'm thinking she's probably sitting with what's his name, Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping.
She's maybe in San Francisco, right there, right?
Yeah, she's probably got a spot at the table.
She was in DC for J6.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was there.
Photos of that. It makes me nervous her having that close proximity to DT, but hey, it was a very nerve-wracking experience. So my advice to anyone and everyone is,
Mary, let me ask you, how did you get out of the campaign? How did you finally cut out?
Well, I just started making excuses. Like, the drive is really far, which it's about a 3.5 hour drive.
Really? Wow.
And then I sort of started asking, is there something I can do from home? And so I'm like, yeah, can you help us with our social media? And so I said, all right, I'll make you a spreadsheet and you can put in here, where she's been featured and keep up with things that way. So I had to walk it back very carefully because, again, I'm still in this very precarious situation in Fresno with no help from anyone. Yeah. It's just me and mom and our dog, and that's it, And these are very dangerous, angry people who, even with no evidence of anything, might get just an idea in their head and hold on to that and run with it and come at me. So,
interestingly, she met somebody on LinkedIn. This guy on LinkedIn was posing as former special forces. He was former law enforcement.
Said he's a U.S. Marshal.
Out of
apparently.
Texas. He was a current U.S. Marshal. Paid this guy a bunch of money to come fly into Fresno to help. He was going to bring all this law enforcement assistance to her.
Right.
Turned out he was up on meth and trying to get her to buy guns for him and pay for everything. And the guy is just putting himself out there to this day, posing as a marshal. He just went through a bankruptcy. So we're going to do shows about this too. Again, this is the opinion and experiences of my guest, my fiance, crime fighter extraordinaire, Mary Bass.
Yeah, and fascinating story, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. I think the people need to know what's going on. San Francisco politics, man, it's really strange. It's been strange for a long time.
My advice to anyone would be, if you are volunteering for any sort of campaign, if you can avoid it, don't jump right into it. First, really do a lot of research on your candidate. Anything and everything, the good, the bad, the scandals, anything questionable, because you're going to be attaching your name and reputation to that person.
Yep.
And if things don't work out well, then you're held to answer.
So has a history of bizarreness. Remember Jim Jones? I put in my book. I talked about he was in depth involved in San Francisco politics. He helped the mayor win back in the 70s. He helped Jimmy Carter win and Mondale win in 76 with support. But quickly they forgot and distanced themselves after Jonestown, the massacre. And they threw him under but he was very influential to helping. Remember, Reagan was the governor of California, very red state that turned a very blue state. And he was helpful for Carter to win in 76 against Ford. So people forget, and then of course Dianne Feinstein was a disaster as mayor out there, later become senator, who pretty much died in office, pretty much in a vegetable state, and should have been removed years ago. So they've had so much corruption, so many problems out there. It's unbelievable. And she also messed up Feinstein, the whole case with Richard Ramirez, the original Night Stalker. She gave a big lead up, which she shouldn't have, about his shoes. He had very unique shoes that he used, and she leaked that in the investigation, which cost time. San Francisco is just a disaster. That's why people have left, and just the politics is horrible. So just keep on showing the proof. And now, of course, Xi Jinping with Joe Biden there talking just adds to it.
I can't even imagine the footage and the botched talking points and all that that are going to come out of this.
Awful.
He's a disgrace. The world's falling apart because of him, directly because of him. And Democrats are leaving the party. You had Democrats storming the Democratic National Headquarters last night. So we're going to wrap up. We're going to follow the news. We're going to keep track of what's going on in San Francisco. We're going to have Mary back real soon with a series of stories we're going to be doing on Fraud Awareness Week.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mary. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.